Have you ever noticed how your brain completely shifts gears the second it hits slanted text? Suddenly, the voice in your head changes. It gets a little dramatic, a little gossipy, or maybe a little sarcastic. But have you ever stopped to ask, why is it slanted in the first place? Let's play a quick word association game. When I say Italy, what comes to your mind? Pizza? That hot chick from your history class? Magnificent Roman architecture? Or maybe the Leaning Tower of Pisa? Wait, the Tower of Pisa leans? Italics lean. Is the font just doing an impression of structurally unstable Italian architecture? Well, not exactly. They do both come from Italy, but the real story behind why this font is permanently tilting is way more fascinating. So if you are interested in uncovering the weird history behind the things you stare at every single day, you are in the right place. Come for the quirky 15th century drama, and stay for the fact that the biggest fact about italics saving space is actually a giant historical lie. You are watching Curious Cat Explains. Hope you are doing well. Come with curiosity and leave with satisfaction. Let's get started. Let's set the scene. It's the early 1400s. Books are not something you casually toss in your backpack. They're absolute luxury items. We're talking handwritten, ridiculously heavy, and mostly hoarded by churches and the ultra-rich. Think of them as the medieval equivalent of owning a private jet. Then, a massive disruption hits. In the mid-1400s, my boy Johannes Gutenberg drops the printing press. Suddenly, books can be mass-produced. Knowledge is spreading, but there's a new problem. Books are still massive, heavy blocks of paper. Printers were scratching their heads thinking, how do we make these things smaller, cheaper, and something people actually want to read in bed? If you were a tech bro in the year 1500, you didn't go to Silicon Valley. You went to Venice, Italy. Venice was the trade capital of Europe. It had all the paper, the ink, the scholars, and a cutthroat publishing market. Enter our two key players, Aldus Manutius, a guy absolutely obsessed with spreading knowledge, and Francesco Griffo, a master craftsman who could turn ideas into actual metal letter forms. Basically, the Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak of Renaissance publishing. They shared one major ambition. Let's make books portable, affordable, and make them feel like an intimate, handwritten manuscript. To do this, Griffo looked at how scholars actually wrote by hand. Before printing, people wrote in a style called cursive humanist script. It was fast, it was flowing, and most importantly, it was naturally, slightly slanted. Educated readers loved this handwriting. It felt elegant and familiar. Printed fonts at the time, however, they were rigid, upright, and super bulky, like Gothic or formal Roman text. Griffo looks at these handwritten manuscripts and thinks, what if mass-produced print felt like a premium, handwritten letter? So, he designs a brand new typeface. The letters lean forward, mimicking the human hand. The letters connect gracefully, and it flows beautifully across the page. Boom! Around 1501, the first italic type is born. Now, today, you use italics to emphasize a word, to format a movie title, or to show your inner thoughts. But rewind 1501. None of those rules existed. Manutius and Griffo were out here experimenting, and they decided to print entire books in italics. Why? Two reasons. First, aesthetics. It felt high-end and handwritten, which was great marketing. Second, this is where the myth gets busted. History loves to say that italics were invented to save space on the page. False. What actually saved space was Manutius taking a standard sheet of paper and folding it into 8 leaves, a format called the octavo. This created the very first mass-produced pocketbook, because italics debuted inside these revolutionary tiny books. History just assumed the font was the space saver. Nope, just clever folding. Oh, and these new, highly styled pocketbooks became wildly popular, and as this new font style spread beyond Italy, other European printers noticed something. They looked at it and said, hey, this looks different, and it came from Italy. So naturally, they started calling it italic type, which literally just translates to the Italian style. It's the exact same logic we use today when we talk about French cuisine or Italian fashion. It was just the cool export from Italy. But as printing evolved, typography standards began to settle. People quickly realized that reading an entire 300-page book in slanted text is visually exhausting. It practically gives you a headache. So, the upright formal Roman type became the undisputed king of long-form reading. Since printers didn't need italics for whole books anymore, they repurposed them. They became a tool to highlight words, differentiate text, or add subtle emphasis. Over time, our brains were trained to understand a new rule. Slanted text equals something special. Fast forward over 500 years, we aren't printing on expensive parchment anymore. We're reading on screens. Digital storage is dirt cheap, and text is infinitely scalable. Yet, italics are still here, still leaning. Why? Because their true original purpose is still incredibly useful. Italics still mimic human emotion. They add a conversational tone to a text message. They let you signal a variation in your voice without violently screaming at people, like bold text does. And they add a beautiful visual rhythm to a boring block of text. So the next time you italicize a word, to sound just a little bit sassy, you can thank two dudes in 16th century Venice who just wanted to make books fit in your pocket.